Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and you're listening to Herb Rally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey no matter what stage you're at. We have over 613 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is yet another episode of the Herbalist Hour. This one is featuring Hannah Lasorsa, and Hannah is the owner and founder of a Herbal Content Cottage, and they're a one-of-a-kind team made up of trained writers, editors, marketers, and photographers who also happen to be experienced herbalists and gardeners. During this chat, we discuss her herbal origins, copywriting, photography, and marketing tips for the herbalists, and a whole lot more. So we're going to start releasing these Herbalist Hour episodes every Wednesday on the podcast. But if you want to catch it early, you could tune in on Fridays on our YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, just go to youtube.com/c/herbrally, or just search Herb Rally in the search bar. It should pop right up. But yeah, we'll be releasing new episodes of the Herbalist Hour every Friday, and then the audio version the following Wednesday. At least that's the plan for now. So we'll see how that goes. But I just interviewed Maria Noel Groves, so that should be coming out on our YouTube channel in a couple days. So I'm really excited for you to hear that interview. I also just interviewed Sabande Greer, Athena Wolf. We've got some upcoming interviews with Stephen Yeager, Kiva and Wolf Harden. So plenty in the pipeline. So be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice for new episodes every week. Also, before we get into the show, I wanted to tell you about the upcoming International Herb Symposium. It'll finally be happening in person once again, and it's going to be held June 9th to the 11th, 2023 at Wheaton College in Norton, Massachusetts. So the International Herb Symposium was founded more than 25 years ago by Rosemary Gladstar, and ever since, this biannual event has been a place for herbalists from across the globe to exchange information about the healing power of plants. This symposium holds a special place among herbal conferences, bringing together people from diverse backgrounds and ways of working with medicinals. I've been to this event a couple times, and I know I say this about practically every single event, but I really love the International Herb Symposium. If you've never been, I highly recommend checking it out. You could learn more at internationalherbsymposium.com. And of course, as always, I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. There are also online options for IHS. So you could look into that as well. And I also wanted to mention this is a fundraiser for United Plant Savers. So one more time, learn more at internationalherbsymposium.com or click on the link in the show notes. And last but not least, a huge thank you and shout out to all of our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members. Basically, with their membership, they get access to exclusive content, classes, monographs, and we keep adding to that content library each and every week. So the growing library of available classes continues to grow. We probably have over 40-ish classes in there now, and we keep adding new classes each week. This week, we'll be adding Erica Galantin's webinar, The Business of Clinical Herbal Practice, which was a webinar that we held a week or so ago. It was almost 3 hours long, so stay tuned for that. That'll be in the schoolhouse this week. And Amanda just published last week the final installment of the 3-part series of Kyle Denton's Oxymels class. So if you want to learn everything you ever wanted to know about Oxymels, check out the Oxymels series in the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. And if you're not a member yet, you could try your first 30 days for free by using coupon code PODCAST at checkout. And that's at herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And use coupon code PODCAST at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. If you've ever wondered how you could help support Herb Rally, the podcasts, and everything we put out in the world, including the free event listings and the YouTube channel and everything, becoming an Herb Rally Schoolhouse member is one of the best ways you can help support us. And it's only $10 a month, so we really, really appreciate all of the support of our 200-plus members. So that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show. The content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to cure, diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. This information has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. We are not doctors, nor do we play one on the internet. Please seek advice from a qualified healthcare professional. Okay, MC Calico, take it away.
Yeah. Smoking herbal blends. We need some mullein and some kush, my brethren. While listening to Herb Rally podcast again. Herbalism at its finest with Mason Hutchison. Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Mason. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Herbalist Hour. Today we have on herbalist Hannah Lasorsa. And Hannah runs and owns a company called the Herbal Content Cottage. Basically, what my understanding of that is she helps herbalists like you with your SEO, branding, photography, copywriting, you name it. And I'm sure we'll delve into a lot more of that and maybe some tips and tricks surrounding that as well. But for now, welcome to the show, Hannah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. And where in the world are you today?
So I am visiting Miami. I'm actually in a hotel room right now, but normally you'll find me in Pennsylvania. My husband and I just moved cross country from Kansas.
That's awesome. Yeah, Lawrence, Kansas, right?
Yeah, Lawrence. It's a really fun town. I loved Lawrence, actually.
Yeah, I'm still yet to visit. I know on the road trip back from Wisconsin to Oregon next year, Amanda and I want to visit there because I believe there's at least a couple herbalists there. So do you know a couple herbalists that live there?
Yeah, actually, my mentor, Akoi, lives there. She's retired now, but still has visitors, and she's a really wonderful. She's a Greek herbalist, actually. She'd be really cool for you guys to meet up with.
Yeah, can you maybe hook us up?
Yeah, for sure. I'll put you in touch, definitely.
I didn't have this in the questions I was going to ask you, but I think it's interesting how our life paths kind of take us just by the sheer fact of where we're born or raised. For me, it's like Mountain Rose Herbs is from Eugene, Oregon, basically. And so I got a job there, and then my whole life kind of spun out from that. But I know I first knew you from working at the Mother Earth News Fair, and they're based out of Lawrence. Is that true?
Near it, in a town
Okay.
called Topeka, about 20 minutes up the road. But yeah, I went to school for journalism, and I learned afterwards that Mother Earth News was about 30 minutes up the road. And I was like, are you serious? That's awesome. I didn't even know it was there. And got an internship and then went on to work there for years. And yeah, it was really formative for me. That's where I really learned about herbalism and was able to kind of build that intersection between writing and photography and herbalism.
I remember you at one of the Mother Earth News Fair. I want to say you were on stage with Rosemary Gladstar and either interviewing her or making herbal medicine with her. And that's just got to have been such a cool experience.
Oh my gosh, I was so starstruck at first too, because I mean, it's Rosemary Gladstar. Like, she is so amazing. But you know what really blew me away about her was that she is so humble and sweet and kind and just it was my job to get her we did a presentation together, and then I had to kind of I was supposed to usher her from her stage to a book signing, and we only had like 10 minutes, and I was supposed to kind of like grab her hand and be like, let's go. And there was this whole crowd of people who wanted to talk to her, and she just took the time. I mean, she made every person feel special. She really wanted to hear everyone's story. And I just remember it was so hard to pull her away because she was just so kind. She's really such an inspiration. Yeah.
Amen. Well, and I'm going to be asking you later about some of your early herbal inspirations. I suspect she might be coming up in that list, but
Totally.
yeah. So I guess maybe we kind of already covered it, but I was curious how you got into herbal medicine, the natural living lifestyle, and all that.
Yeah. So, I recently realized that I need to give my mom more credit than I did. I used to say, like, I discovered it, when I was older, because I didn't feel like I grew up with herbalism. But I was recently thinking back on it, and my mom always had this big aloe plant in our house. And I knew from a very, very young age to, if I got burned, go get a leaf, open it up, and spread it on my burn. Like, I don't even remember a time in my life that I didn't know that. And that's totally herbalism. Like
Yeah.
that's that. That was just happening at home. I just didn't like, at the time I didn't know that that's what it was. It was just a part of being at home. And then another thing my mom did that was really cool and really formative for me is that she is a big tea drinker. And she would always, every summer, she would make sun tea. And we always had this big pitcher of sun tea in the fridge. And she would add in like a couple bags of just like Lipton black tea. But then she also had pots of mint and lemon balm growing on our back porch. And she would go snip off some sprigs and stuff that down into the pitcher with the tea and let it infuse out in the sun and then bring it inside. And so she really exposed me to tea in general, sun tea for sure. I still associate lemon balm with my mom. And then when I was in college, I got a job at a local tea shop that was downtown. And that's typically when I think of my herbalism journey is really, really starting on my own because it was such a cool shop. It's gone out of business since then, which is a bummer, but it was this awesome tea shop. They had 300 different varieties of loose leaf tea in jars just all over, and you could go in and pick it out. And when I started working there, I was just this college student. I didn't know anything. People would come in and be like, "Do you have tea for digestion?" And I'd be like, "What? What are you asking me this? I have no idea." And so, but I'm like, I'm a good employee. I'll do my research, And so I jumped online and was just like blown away that there's this whole world of teas out there. And that was what really kind of sparked that curiosity for me, like wanting to dive in more. And then once I started working at Mother Earth News magazine, and there was the health beat, and I became the health editor, and that was where I really got the opportunity to just dive in and explore so much more.
What's your mom's name?
Marty.
Marty, we give you full credit for Hannah becoming an herbalist. All right. So if you're watching,
yes, totally, for sure. Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, I remember Mother Earth News Fair, specifically the fair, really emphasized. I remember working with Allison a lot. They would really emphasize the herbal medicine component of the fair, and I thought that was just so cool.
Yeah, I learned so much then. And they do a really good job too of bringing in a lot of really wonderful herbalists. That was where I met Rosemary, like we were talking about earlier. And yeah, they're just such a great learning opportunity.
Yeah. Do you think your mom would identify as an herbalist?
It's so no, I don't think she would. She has because it's interesting. Like back then, it was this weird mix of, I was homeschooled. We lived very close to the land. She had her aloe. So in some ways, she was kind of like Earth Mama. But then it was also the 80s, and we weren't as informed about food and stuff like we are now. So then we'd like get in the car and go to Taco Bell, and so, it was just like this,
right,
like kind of funny mix.
Yeah.
But she is really interested in natural health now. And while I don't think she'd identify as an herbalist, I do think she really resonates with like alternative health. Anytime I get sick, she's like, go do your neti pot, take your oregano, like she's for sure up on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people ask me like herbal parenting advice, that type of thing. And my response is usually, I just want Amelia to take this lifestyle for granted. I don't actually care if she becomes an herbalist. I just kind of want it to be in the backdrop of her lifestyle. Kind of like, it sounds like that's the way kind of she rolled.
Totally, for sure. Like, yeah, I didn't even think about it so much until recently, just looking back and being like, you know what, Marty, you deserve more credit than I've been giving you.
Good job, Marty. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of staying in the past, do you have any memories of like a first relationship with a plant?
I do. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, we lived out in the country. I was homeschooled, so I spent a lot of time as a kid outside with my brothers, and I'm so grateful for that time. I feel like honestly, I don't know that I would have the connection with nature and outdoors and plants that I do if it wasn't for those years. And in Kansas, where I grew up, they have like tons and tons of juniper trees. Everyone calls them cedars, but they're technically juniper. They have those little tiny blueberries. And I some of my very, very first memories are sitting under those trees and collecting all the little tiny berries and making like mixing them with mud and water and making like potions and trying to get my brothers to eat them. I
That's
was like,
hilarious.
I got the good stuff. Like, try this. And
Younger
I loved
brothers, I
that.
presume.
One older, one younger.
Oh, okay.
I know they never actually ate it. They're like, yeah, we're good. But that's my first memory I have of really just really feeling like at home kind of with plants and wanting to interact with them and make stuff with them.
So you said they were junipers, but when you were everyone around there called them cedar berries, is that right?
Cedars, yeah,
Oh.
everyone just calls them cedar out there.
Did you know what they were, or did you just kind of find out later?
No, it wasn't until actually maybe my Mother Earth News days when I learned that they're actually invasive.
Oh.
And like they've just kind of taken over the prairie out there. And a lot of times with prairie maintenance, when they do like those big beautiful burns where they'll just like
Oh.
burn acreage,
Yeah.
that's oftentimes to get rid of those junipers because they just take over.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So besides Marty, do you have any other, well, it sounds like you have a herbalist mentor in Lawrence. Can you tell me more about her or any other mentors you might have had?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my mentor in Lawrence, her name's Akoi Miller, and I am so grateful for the summer that I spent with her. She's since retired, but she offered these apprenticeships each summer where it would be she'd take on like 6 to 8 local kids and we would all go out there and we would spend the first half of the day in her garden. And that was really what made this apprenticeship so unique to me was that we really got to see these plants in their natural element and learn how to care for them and harvest them and dry them and just, it was really like the full circle. And her garden was so beautiful. I remember we went down these like stone trail with this arbor and there's a creek and a greenhouse and it was just so whimsical. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is like dream home status, like noted for later. And then the second half of the day, we'd all go inside and we would sit around her beautiful big wooden table. We would share a meal and then we would study. And she'd, present on a different herb or a different bodily system. She was really into nutrition. And then at the end of the summer, we all picked a plant and gave kind of like a presentation on it. And I learned so much from her, and that was such an incredible opportunity. At that point, that was, 12 years ago, and there weren't quite as many online learning opportunities as there are now. And I knew I really wanted to learn about herbalism, but I thought at that point that I was going to have to move and, enroll in like an actual, like a school or some sort of in-person program. So to have someone in my community who was sharing that knowledge was amazing.
Yeah, herbalists are everywhere. I find, yeah, after doing Herb Rally for like 7 years now, I'm still learning about new herbalists in this nook or this cranny. It's super incredible to see the growth. And honestly, they've always been around. I got to ask though, what was the plant you did your presentation on?
Poppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always loved poppies. My brother, one of my brothers, I mentioned I had two brothers. My younger brother actually passed away unexpectedly from a heroin overdose
Oh,
like 10 years ago. And it was like right in that time. And I was having a really hard time, obviously, and was really struggling with everything. And I noticed I was having, I had this really complicated relationship with the poppy
mm,
flower because on one hand, I kind of was demonizing it, like it was this drug that had caused so much grief for me personally. But then it's also a flower that can offer so much benefit, and medicine when we really need it. And so it was a really emotional journey for me. And it really helped me kind of come out the other side and in a way, like kind of forgive plants. I had baggage around it for sure. So
yeah, I could totally see how that would be healing, and I'm so sorry you went through that. I've definitely experienced my fair share of family trauma surrounding drug addictions and whatnot, including
Yeah.
heroin and whatnot. So yeah, I've never really thought about working with a plant associated with a drug in order to kind of heal from that experience. But
It's such a it's really sad how much more prevalent I think that is has all become.
yeah,
And one of the real learning experiences for me out of it was that, my brother was this amazing person. He was so smart and so funny and just really one of my all-time favorite people. And it helped me get past the stigma that drug addicts are like bad people or, people who, need to watch out for, I mean, they're people who are struggling and I have such a different outlook on all of that since that
yeah,
experience.
that's a good point. Yeah. Did you work with the flower essence at all of poppy or
No, I
no?
didn't. That flower essences are not something I've really explored much. But I'm gonna file that away because I think that's a really good idea. That could be a nice way to go about it.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't worked with flower essences too much either, but for some reason I just felt compelled to ask. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite books or resources for learning herbalism?
Yes, I do. So one of my favorite herbal writers is a woman who I actually got turned on to at the Mother Earth News fairs, and her name is Maria Noel Groves. Are you familiar with Maria?
I just was emailing with her yesterday.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
like her teaching style. I think she shares things in a way that is really straightforward and simple and clear. She doesn't overcomplicate things. I have all of her books. Her book, Body into Balance, is one of my all-time favorites. I look at it all the time. And then I'm also a big herb gardener. So one of her other books is gardening with herbs. And I love how she kind of comes up with like, a garden theme for digestive herbs or tea herbs, kind of like coming up with these different gardening themes based on what you're trying to achieve or what herbs you're trying to connect with. And yeah, I really, really like her books. Rosemary Gladstar's books, of course, classics. And then I'm biased in this realm, but I do some work on the Herbal Academy's marketing team, and I really do love the way the Herbal Academy presents information. And I think they really pull in such pretty visuals and graphics. And over the years, I've gotten to see really kind of like an insider view of the team and how they do such a good job of just like really researching and fact checking. I just really trust what they put out. So I've taken pretty much every Herbal Academy course that exists, and I
Wow.
really love their content. Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah, what a great resource to have. Yeah, I was looking at their staff page maybe a month or so ago, and it's just incredible how many people work on the Herbal Academy. So yeah, it's just very impressive organization. I've partnered with them quite a bit over the years through Mountain Rose Herbs and Herb Rally. And I'll second your recommendation for Maria Noble Groves. So for the listeners, you could check out wintergreenbotanicals.com, I want to say is her website. Two books. She told me, I believe she's writing her third book right now. Not sure when it's going to be published or not.
What do you know what her third book's on, or can you share? Is it too early?
I don't remember if she told me, and I don't think she mentioned it. So, but yeah. So the reason why we were chatting is because Herb Rally is actually behind the scenes, kind of piecing together a book, which we'll share more details on later. But I just wanted to get her take on like the self-publishing route versus the standard publishing route, which I know she's with Story. So I believe we're gonna
Mhm.
kind of all meet and discuss that. So
Nice. Ooh,
yeah.
I'll totally stay tuned for more
Yeah.
on that on your guys' side. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's thank you, and that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, Maria has been very generous to Herb Rally over the years. I want to say she's probably done, I don't know, 10 podcast episodes, and she's contributed to the Herb Rally Schoolhouse, and yeah, so she's great. I love Maria.
She's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just love the way she presents everything. And she's a really nice person, and
yeah,
kind of going back to what I was saying about Rosemary meeting at the fairs. I always thought Maria was just really down to earth and kind and generous with her time and just kind of again that the sort of person that you want to support.
Hey man, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was also gonna say she's definitely one of the most like just punctual and professional herbalists that I've ever encountered. So again,
Yeah.
shout out shout out to Maria Noel Groves.
Hi, Maria. Love you.
Yeah, love you. Uh, well, I don't want to jump into your specialty. You kind of merge the worlds of herbalism and helping businesses market their products through your business. But for your own business, you just do such a beautiful job. Like your website and your social media presence is all just like the perfect proof to show how you could help others. You know, kind of do the same for them. So I was kind of wondering, can you give our audience maybe some just general tips on how to market their herbal products better?
Sure. Yeah, totally. So if you're an herbal product maker and you're wanting to market your products, a few tips that I would have. First off, so we offer at Herbal Content Cottage, we offer both copywriting and photography. So let's kind of focus on copywriting first, maybe, and we can kind of talk about some of those tips. Writing can be hard if it's not your thing. Like, I totally get it. A lot of our clients struggle with doing their own writing. And over the years, one of the big tips that I share with folks is to read your copy out loud to yourself. I think when you read something out loud, you can get a better feel for, does it sound conversational? Is it too stiff? Is it too long? And I really think reading something out loud after you write it can be really, really helpful. I would also recommend we use a free tool called Grammarly on a lot of the writing we do. Have you ever used that, Mason? Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. I've seen commercials for it, and it looks like it's very effective. I've never used it though.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's kind of like if you were to take the spell check that we've all used before, but also it applies to grammar and it helps you write things in a way that's a lot more like consistent. Or sorry, concise, a lot
Mhm.
more like concise and just like, get your point out there. So if you struggle with writing, I would look into that app. It really helps you clean it up, get it really professional. And then I would just also finally encourage you to just really be yourself. When we're getting to know our clients and we're trying to kind of get to know like the brand voice, I have found that like 99% of the times, the brand voice is really essentially the founder's voice. It's kind of one and the same. And so just honor that. If you're really silly and goofy and you're cracking jokes all the time, have fun in your copy, like bring that into your brand. Don't feel like you have to be overly like stiff or professional. In fact, we're seeing more and more that the best copy is short, it's concise. People have very short attention spans these days. We oftentimes, when my team and I are writing, we'll write the copy, we'll get it all out, and then we'll go through and we'll try to figure out can any of this be turned into bullet points or just a headline or like how can you break it up? People have like really short attention spans. So I would just say keep it short, keep it fun,
Mm.
and be yourself. And then when it comes to the visual side of things, capturing products, if you're doing it yourself, oh my God, there's like so much to say about this. I'm almost wondering like, like what's the most helpful? Um, Depending on where you're starting, just one thing that can be really tricky with capturing your images can be having it just look really professional. And I would just encourage you, even if you have a phone, phones are amazing. iPhones take great photos. Like, do not feel like you have to go invest in some fancy camera to share photos of your product or even your service. Like, you do not have to. And what I would do is I would take your product, take your phone, walk around your house and look for a window where there's nice, pretty natural light streaming in and then pull over like a coffee table or a desk, put your product on it, figure out what angle you need to get to really see the label very clearly, and then just pull in between one and three other like props, like items. Fresh flowers are really good. a little, vase with some flowers, a linen textile. It's amazing the difference that like a linen napkin can make
Yeah.
in a photo. It just softens it up and gives it like a really cozy vibe. We actually have a whole list over on the Herbal Content Cottage website right now of my 65 of my favorite herbal props.
Oh, wow.
Things that you can grab around your house, yeah, to give it that herbal vibe. And there's so, any herbs, your mortar and pestle, spoons, bowls, all these things just help kind of give context that this is an herbal product. And you can just kind of situate those things in the scene, off to the side, a little bit behind it, and you're going to start seeing your photos get a more professional feel pretty quickly.
So you said that list is available on your website?
Yep, yeah, herbalcontentcottage.com. It's currently set up as just a pop-up. So just
Okay.
come to our site and within a few minutes you'll get or a few seconds really, you'll get prompted to download it if you want to check it out.
Oh, that's a rad resource. I suppose this is almost unavoidable, but oh, here comes a puppy.
Oh, yes.
Do
Look,
you see him?
I can just see like a little bouncing creature, like barely.
He's
Oh,
really,
fun.
really cute. Looks like a chocolate lab or something. Come up here.
Oh, I love
Okay.
dogs.
Okay. Here, I'll try to show him.
Hi.
Oh,
Oh.
he's eating my peanuts. Okay. So I suppose it's almost unavoidable, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts on maybe going to other herbal product Instagram pages and kind of like kind of being inspired and almost, trying to, I don't know if, have you heard the term steal like an artist?
I have. Yeah, totally. And I think that's totally fine. Like what you want to do, we all have to go find inspiration,
Yeah.
right? And we're all constantly consuming content that is going to inspire us and affect our decisions. And I think really what it comes down to is, if you find an image that you really love and you think, oh my God, I want to create this, I want this vibe, just ask yourself, what are ways that I can make little changes to make it more original to myself or my brand? Trying to think of an example, like let's say, maybe you love this photo that has a big vase of sunflowers in the background, and you love the pops of yellow. So, maybe you can just swap in like a different yellow flower, a different colored vase, a different colored background, swapping in just nuance changes
Yeah.
to help make it your own, I think can be really helpful. But, we all start off by, consuming other people's stuff and trying to recreate it. And I especially think if you're just doing it as like a practice, like if you're at home and you're just trying to practice, recreate all you want. That's how you kind of get to feel for how it works. And then you can also just give credit. I think if you decide to post it on Instagram or on social media, you can always just say like, had a great time styling this and I was inspired by at whoever, to get the vibe. And then they'll appreciate that. And then that takes away any sort of like, weirdness, I think.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, if you're going to completely outright copy someone, you should probably at least give them credit.
Yeah.
Years ago, we had one photographer at Mountain Rose Herbs, and they had a very distinct style, and it was cool to see Amanda kind of take over. And it was still the Mountain Rose Herbs brand, but you could just tell that was her signature. And as I mentioned to you before, Amanda just always like gushes over your style, your photography and colors that you use, and just like your logo and branding. And I looked at her and I was like, Amanda, you like it so much because it probably reminds you of your style. Like,
yeah, I love her style too.
yeah, there you
Totally.
go.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I think
you're both
that's really
unique.
cool.
You're both unique. You
Yeah.
both create your own stuff, but it's and especially to like say someone on your guys' level, like you definitely do have your own nuances, and that's why I brought up the previous photographer and designer at Mountain Rose, because yeah, that you just have your own thumbprint on it. But yeah, I love those suggestions. I did want to kind of go back to the copywriting for a second. How do you feel about this? Because I've been doing this for a while now, writing as opposed to like big chunks of paragraphs. I almost split up things like every sentence or two, and I even do that in my emails, and I feel like it's almost more digestible and readable that way.
100%. Yes. Even down, like you said, like I think when we were in school growing up, we were taught that a paragraph is like 3 to 4 sentences. And now when we're writing, I'll make a paragraph like one sentence.
Mhm.
We also do a lot of, if you have something that you really want people to see, then use those tools like bold those words or underline it or take that sentence and bump up the font size way big so that like, it really stands out. We use Squarespace for our Herbal Content Cottage website, and they actually just released a new feature that I was like really nerding out about, where you can highlight you can circle text now, which I love. It looks really cool on websites. It really stands out. So I totally agree. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing that. We do that too. And I think a lot of it just comes down to the fact that people have shorter and shorter attention spans. We're scrolling real quick, jumping around, and just saying what you need to say really, really clearly, grabbing that attention. And then another really important part of that is to then include a really very obvious little box or button or something that people can click on to actually go through and make that sale, buy that product, sign up for your newsletter list. Those are called call to action or CTA buttons. And the more of those you can sprinkle in your newsletter, your blog post, your website copy, like be liberal with those because that's how people actually, do it. That's how they sign up. That's how they make a purchase. And that's your ultimate goal.
Yeah, CTA is very important. So just fun fact, Herb Rally's on Squarespace too, always has been. Yeah,
Nice.
I love them. I saw something on your website where you circled like you had all these two lists of things and you kind of circled which ones were your preference. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was like ocean woods and you like did meadow or something like that.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
I only bring it up because I thought that was cool, first of all, but second of all, is that the circle feature you're talking about?
No, that is like a graphic that we made
Okay.
with I have to give mad props to Jess Madsen of the Wildcraft Studio.
Oh yeah.
She is who she designed our website and she did our Herbal Content Cottage branding and logo. She made that for us. So she really got us kind of up off the ground because we do copywriting and photography, but we don't do like the branding and the graphic design. So huge props to Jess. If anyone's listening to this and they actually need a Squarespace or need a website or labels or branding, Jess is my go-to gal. I recommend her to everyone.
Wildcraft Studio, that's based in Oregon, is it not?
She's in Tacoma.
Oh, okay. I totally know that brand. That's cool that she did that for you.
Yeah, she's great.
So, is there anything else regarding photography or copywriting, or that's a pretty good primer, I'd say?
I mean, the only other thing that I think is worth mentioning is this is like a general marketing tip, is to like really, I encourage anyone who's listening to really, really pay attention to your newsletter list. I think it's really easy for folks to get wrapped up in social media. How many followers do I have? How many likes did I get? It's easy because it's like a quick gratification. But what we often tell our clients is that social media is kind of like the handshake. Like that's, hey, nice to meet you. This is who we are. This is what we're about. But then the actual transactions, the purchases, the things that really like move your business along are so much more likely to take place via newsletters. That's why if you open your inbox and it's just like every single clothing company you've ever shopped from, it's like, taking up all that, it's because it works, and those big brands with those big marketing bucks have whole teams completely focused on newsletters. So if you are an herbal business and you're trying to grow or you're just getting set up, I'd really encourage you to take the time to make sure you are collecting email addresses, doing a really great the number one way that we have found to capture them is to do those freebies like we were talking about earlier, that little pop-up I have with the list. Those are so successful. It's like crazy. So ask yourself, what's a free little graphic or a little ebook or something fun that I could put together, post it up on your site and say, hey guys, give me your email address, and in exchange, I'll email this to you. You'll get it for free. And we see 4 to 5 times more email newsletter signups through those freebies than we do through just like the newsletter forms embedded on websites. So check that out. If I'm going to leave you with like a nugget, like please pay attention to your newsletter lists.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I know a lot of people are apprehensive to put up, say, a pop-up on their website, but honestly, it's so ubiquitous now that everyone's just used to Xing out. Like no one has to
Right.
sign up. They can just click out. It's no big deal. And then the exchange, the value you get in return is you actually have the ability to directly communicate with your customer or potential customer. And
Yes.
also as far as like the social media stuff goes, those could almost just be considered like vanity metrics. Like let's say you have X number of thousand followers, but you're only actually reaching a certain percentage of those because the platform they own the platform. So they're, unless you pay for actual promotion, you're not going to be able to reach them. Granted, newsletters
Yes.
do cost money, like say Herb Rally has MailChimp and we pay so much money per month, but in the end it's totally worth the upfront cost because with say like a 30% open rate, you're actually getting people to see what you're trying to promote. I'll also add on to that, you get the email subscriber. Then when it comes time to actually putting out the newsletter, you should be providing value so people actually want to stick around.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, that is like when you're reaching out to your newsletter subscribers, you're not just saying, buy this, buy this, buy this, because then you're kind of annoying. Everyone's like, okay, I get it. Like you're spamming me. So
Unsubscribe.
like, yeah, like no, instead you want to be like, hey, here's this awesome recipe I really love. Here's this really cool project. Here's a plant profile on an herb. Here's 10 herbs you can keep in mind if you have a headache. Like cool content where people want to open your newsletters and they get excited to receive your newsletters. And then sprinkled in at the, later on in the newsletter or every so often in your newsletters, you can say, by the way, if you want more stuff like this,
Yeah.
if you're digging my free content, then here you can spend a little bit of money to buy my book or try my product, but yeah, I want to say, Mason, too, like I love hearing your insight on what you guys do for Herb Rally because I think you guys do such a good job. I love getting your newsletters. I love seeing your social posts. Do you know what you guys do a really good job of
What's that?
is I feel like I know you and Amanda. Like I literally I could be like, hey, what's up, bestie? And you're like, we haven't talked in like 10 years. But like that's like that is like an ultimate goal for
Yeah.
marketing is that your clients feel like they know you and that they can trust you and they like you. And you guys do such a good job of that. I want to give you like mad props.
Well, thank you. A lot of people don't really think of me as like this shy person, but I would say my entire life I was just kind of this shy person. So every step of Herb Rally has actually been kind of a soul growth for me. Me consistently putting myself out there a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, to the point where y'all actually kind of know me to one degree, and Amanda now to one degree or another. And yeah, I would say it's just been super good for me. And now I'm actually doing these podcasts and stuff like that. So now I get to know my Herb Rally peeps a lot more. So thank you for the
That's so
compliment.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
so sometimes on our newsletter, I'll be like, "Oh, I wrote like the past 5 introductions. I gotta get Amanda on this so people hear her voice too."
Yeah. Well, you guys do a good job of intermingling like
Mhm.
personal enough personal stuff where people feel like they know what's going on in your life. Like you just posted about that. Like I know you guys just adopted a cat. And like that's awesome. Like it makes me feel like I know you guys, I know what you're up to. And people are so much more likely to invest in a brand and support a brand when they feel like they know the people who are behind it. So they can look at you guys and they can be like, okay, here's an example of someone who's really doing this well.
Thank you. You were talking about kind of just during the copywriting stuff, you were talking about be yourself, show your voice, that kind of thing. It was early on in like the Herb Rally podcast. I really wanted to implement like a hip hop beat or song into it because I know a lot of herbalism content, and I know it's probably genuine for a lot of these brands. It's like a Freudian slip. a lot of these brands use like say folk music or banjos and this and that. And
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, I like bluegrass and all that stuff too, but I felt like it would have been like non-authentic for me not to use some sort of hip hop influence because it's greatly influenced my life. And even though it doesn't necessarily like say jive with your stereotypical herbalism brand, I really wanted to incorporate hip hop because it's a part of me. So
Yeah, I think that's so important too because and what then to like analyze that through like a marketing lens kind of. It's nice because there's a lot of people out there who love herbalism and they love hip hop and they haven't really seen that intersection. And so then when they see you guys doing that intersection, it's like, hey, this is super cool. Here's people who are like combining two worlds that I also appreciate, and it's yeah, it's just, who doesn't like seeing someone be themselves, I mean, I guess unless you're just like a mean person and you're just out being mean, but like you're not, so you don't have to worry about it.
exactly. Well, I do want to like kind of spend some time highlighting you and your services as well. I know we kind of did that just via the tips, but can you kind of just share what Herbal Content Cottage is all about?
Yeah, so we are a marketing studio. We work specifically with herbalists. Everyone on my team has an herbal background. And that was really important to me when I was building out my team because I know that a lot of the people who come to us are, they've hired copywriters or they've hired marketing teams to kind of help. Then they get up and running, and the people who are working on their content just don't understand herbalism. Maybe they don't know what a tincture is, or they don't understand even things, like which plants are endangered and should we draw attention to the fact that this plant was, ethically wildcrafted or organically sourced, just things like that that are really an important part of the conversation. But unless you're in the industry, you don't really know that. You don't know that that's something to draw attention to. So we specialize in content marketing. And that's a type of marketing that uses like inspiring content, educational content to connect with the audience and grow your community and drive sales. So we do a ton of blog posts, getting people, we've got blogs, but you want to be really intentional with the content that you're covering. We do a lot of SEO research, to see SEO stands for search engine optimization. And that is like research that you can do to see what are people searching for on the internet? Like what's a trending topic? What do people want to learn about? And then taking those phrases and integrating them all throughout your website copy, your blog post to make sure that this website you've worked so hard to create is really coming up in searches for people. So we do that. We do newsletter copy, website copy, photography, videography, really just anything, on that marketing side where sometimes, I mean, we usually, once people get started on their herbal business, they are like, oh my God, this is really time consuming. Spending a lot of time doing this.
Yeah.
And they really got into it because they started their business because they love making the herbal products. They love working in their garden. They love connecting with their clients, so we just kind of help take some of that marketing off their plate so that they can really just focus on the aspects that they love.
I love it. Yeah, I would love to get to the point where we could hire you all someday.
Oh, that'd be awesome. We'd love to work with you guys.
Yeah, potentially someday. So the listeners could learn more at herbalcontentcottage.com, and also
Yes.
at Herbal Content Cottage on Instagram. Sign up for their newsletter. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
One other thing I would just mention is that, it's there's a whole team of us here. And I think one of the biggest things that has been most rewarding of starting the studio over the past few years has been growing the team, seeing the amazing talent and skill set that some of the other writers and photographers bring. So, it's not just me anymore. And that is been really, really cool, really, really fun. So, if you go to our website and check out our about page, you can see who the team is, find everyone on Instagram. But it's a good crew of herbal inspired creators.
I just want to highlight too. I think it's so cool that the people that you do hire and the people that write for you all are herbalists too, because I mean that's so important. Like I noticed that you all support United Plant Savers in one way or another, and just immediately
Yes.
one of the examples you used, you were like, is this plant endangered or whatever? And everyone that works for Herbal Content Cottage is going to kind of be aware of that stuff. So
Yeah, I think that's really important. It really is one of the number one reasons people come to us is they're like, I tried a traditional marketing studio, I tried a traditional copywriter, and I just didn't get it, you know?
yeah, I love that. I also noticed on your page you have a few models. Is that true? Are these the humans that are
Yes.
actually modeling the products in the photos?
Yeah, so I'm so excited about this. So historically, I have been both a photographer and a model. I'll like, set the timer and like run around and like pour the tea. And it's like such an ordeal. And it's fun and I still do it a lot. But that meant that basically so many of the photos that I was creating, it's me in the photos, and I am a thin white woman.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's what was that's what we were creating, that's what I was sharing. And I know that diversity and inclusivity is so important in any marketing campaign. And I really wanted to be able to offer more options to our clients. So we just moved cross country, and I did I did a listing on Indeed, like looking for models. I got so many weird responses, Mason. Like it was the weirdest thing. I was like scared to open some of my emails, but at the end of the day, I found four beautiful local women who represent a whole variety of body types, skin types, and what I'm really excited about is at first I thought about going through a modeling agency because they've already done the work, they found these women, but it's super expensive. It was like $1,200 for a day. And then they were like, "Oh, that'll be an extra 500 if you want to use the photos for more than 6 weeks, and an extra 800 if you want to use them on multiple platforms." And it was like, "Oh my God, we work with small brands, so keeping these things affordable and accessible for people is like top priority for me." So getting to find these women who are, they're not professional models, but they love the idea of getting experience modeling. And we were able to come up with a rate that is like literally a fifth or a sixth of what you would get if you went through an agency. And but the quality is still there. I just did my first shoot actually with one of these new models last
Cool.
weekend. She crushed it. We got so many beautiful photos for this client, and all the money goes directly to the models. Like I'm not
That's
taking
so cool.
anything off the top. I'm just really wanting to make it really easy for people to say yes and to bring these folks on. And I
That's
also want to
awesome.
say we're offering big discounts for BIPOC brands if you're interested in using a BIPOC model, because I think it's really, important that we're able to pull in if you want someone in your photos who looks like you, there's then the question like, well, it kind of sucks to have to like pay extra money to have someone who looks like you, like that kind of sucks, and I get that. And I really want to just make it very, very, very easy for people to have anyone in the photos that they want to use. So keeping it affordable, keeping it easy, accessible, and that money goes straight in the models' pockets. That's been a huge project over the past month. And you can see those girls, all their beautiful photos are up on our website if you want to check them out.
Yeah, so that's new. That's cool. I didn't know that. I could totally relate. I've heard Amanda complain so many times about having to take the picture, then run over and be the model as well.
Oh my God. It's so hard because,
Yeah.
and then like, for every one time that you get that perfect shot, there's like 10 photos where it's out of focus or you didn't quite make it, or, it's really hard to do both at the same time. So I mean, we can do it. There's tips and, there's ways to make it easier, but then it's always the same person in all your photos. So
Well,
yeah.
I've done some modeling for Herb Rally and Mountain Rose Herbs. So if you ever need someone when we're
Yes, I know. I call in my husband Jake all the time too. I'm like, babe, what are you doing? It's like, oh God, not again.
That's what I'm gonna put on my
He's a
Instagram
trooper.
profile. I'm gonna put model. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Herbal lifestyle model
Yeah,
for
that's right.
hire.
Well, cool. Looks like we're getting close to time, and I have a couple more questions if you got the time.
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, so I told you about this before. Are you willing to do a let's get deep question, Friends edition?
Heck yes.
All right, let's
Yeah,
do
let's
it.
do it.
All right, I'll just choose a random one, and I promise I haven't looked at these beforehand. If you could travel back in time, what time period would you like to explore and why?
Oh my God, that's actually really hard. I like
Yeah.
love like period dramas and historical fiction. Like I love all that. Um, So the first thing that came to mind was like medieval, but then I also think I would be like really dirty and I don't know if there'd be like a really comfortable place to go to the bathroom. So I think I'm actually gonna say let's stick a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say the 1920s. I think the 20s are so cool with like the flapper style and the jazz. And I just would love to be like a flapper in the 1920s. I think that'd be really cool. Still have
Yeah.
enough modern amenities where you're clean.
Yeah, I don't know if my hair is gonna have those amenities. That's a good choice. I can't take that one, but yeah, that's great. I was gonna say for a while I really liked Leonardo da Vinci, and I think it would be really cool to go back and hang out with him and see
Yes.
his process and everything. When we were
And
first choosing these questions, I was like, shoot, I don't know if I have a good answer for that, but it just popped in my head.
yeah, you know what I think would be cool about going back to a time period like that too is that, like in today's modern world, I feel like we're exposed to so much. There's not a
Hmm.
lot of surprises anymore. And I love thinking about how cool it would be if you lived back in like Da Vinci's era and then someone like introduced you to like chocolate or something. I mean, and I don't know, that timing could be off, but like think about how exciting that would be. Or like you see a photo of a giraffe or a drawing of a giraffe and you would just be like, you know, it's cool.
Mind
I think it
blown.
would be exciting. Yeah. Mhm.
That's a good way to think about that. Well, cool. I know I told you pre-call I wanted to ask you, can you give us a brief summary of that awesome looking library in your hometown?
Oh my gosh. So I posted a photo of the world's coolest library recently. I was so happy to find it. Okay, it's called the Lieberman Library, and it's at the University of Lehigh. Yeah, Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And this is okay, so I'm going to sound really nerdy when I tell you this, but I love books and I love architecture. And I walked into this library and it's in like a tower. So it's a circular room. It has 4 stories that are all open. You can see there's spiral staircases that take you from one story to the next. And there's the whole ceiling is a stained glass mosaic. So it's epic. I walked in and I started crying.
Wow.
Like, I literally started crying because I was so touched by it
Yeah.
just being like the most epic book room ever. It was a feeling that you would get, I feel like, when you walk into like a cathedral or something, just blown away. Yeah, so it's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. If anyone lives nearby, come check it out. I'll meet you. I'm like always looking for an opportunity to go to go there. It's just so beautiful.
Is that in your hometown or your new hometown?
It's like we live just right outside of Bethlehem. So
Okay.
we're like 20 minutes from it, kind of in the country a little bit.
Yeah, I want to say pre-call you were saying that's one of the reasons you were sold on moving there.
Yeah, so my husband Jake is from the area and he was trying to convince me like Pennsylvania's got a lot you'll see. And we did a tour there and we went to the library and then he took me to some waterfalls. And between those two, I was like, okay, I'm totally sold. Let's move.
All right, just a couple more questions. I think you're a really good person to answer this. What advice do you have for someone that wants to either become an herbalist or be involved in like the business of herbalism in general?
Oh yeah. So that's a really good question. And I actually struggled with that personally because I had one side of myself that was really into writing and editing and photography. And then I had this other side of myself that was really into herbalism. And it took me a surprisingly long time to realize that I could combine the two. I felt like I felt like if I was gonna be an herbalist, I had to be either like a clinical herbalist or a product maker. And there's actually this whole world in between of so many jobs, so many things you can do related to herbalism that are outside of those two main categories. So, I would just encourage folks to ask themselves, like, what is my skill set? What am I really good at? What do I enjoy doing? And then combine that with your passion for herbalism and see if it's possible. Can you make a living from that? Is that something that you could do if that's your desire? If not, just have fun with it. But I think it's so cool. Like, there's an herbal illustrator who I really love. Her name's Madison Safer, I think is her last name. She does really, really like cozy herbal scenes of, like herbs drying and people harvesting and making herbal preps, or she does like fire cider graphics, and
Mm.
she sells them as posters and cards, and she makes a living doing that. And I think her work is so beautiful, and that's a really cool example of someone who has said, like, okay, I love illustration, I love drawing, I love herbalism, I can combine the two. So that would probably be my advice. Like, you don't have to be a clinical herbalist or a product maker to be herbalist.
See, and that's why I wanted to ask you, because that's such a good answer. It's the perfect answer. And I struggled with the same thing. I was obsessed with herbalism and herbalists, and I was like, I don't want to be a clinical herbalist. And
Hmm.
I kind of find myself now doing my strengths, and I'm obviously very clearly involved in the herbalism world, and working at Mountain Reserves. There's so many different jobs, like say the people that visit the herbal farms and stuff like that. There's so many different things you could do in this herbalism realm. So don't limit yourself to just making products or being a clinical herbalist. Definitely do that if it's calling you, but yeah, there's a lot of options
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. I always imagine that the role that you mentioned at mountain reserves where folks go like visit the farms, that would be such a cool job.
Yeah.
It would be really fun. You get to travel, you get to learn about supply chain. If someone has experience in like retail or sales, you could work in an herb shop, you could start an herb shop. I mean, there's just endless opportunities out there. And people are just getting more and more interested in herbalism.
Yeah.
I think it's really a growing industry, and there's room for all the people out there for sure.
Amen. Yes, very true. Cool. Well, let's tie a bow on this and ask the last question, which is pretty simple. What's your favorite part of being an herbalist?
Oh my gosh, that's hard. Um,
It
my
is.
mind just
It
went in
is.
like six different directions. I think for me, it's probably it helps me feel connected to this earth a lot more. I think it's really, really grounding. So I'm a Gemini. I like bounce around a lot. I'm in my head a lot. And so it really helps me to have things in my life, hobbies, rituals that ground me a little bit, kind of bring me down to earth. And when I'm out hiking or identifying plants, spending time in my garden, I feel so grounded and healthy and grateful. And it's just yeah, it's that connection point more than anything. Honestly, like, this may sound weird, but it makes me feel like I belong on this planet. Like I am here on this earth alongside all of these plants that I'm like evolved along with too. They feed me, they heal me, they nourish me. Like, that wouldn't happen if I just got landed on anywhere, some other random planet. And it makes me feel at home. It makes me feel like I belong here.
Mm.
And I love that.
You did it. You great answer.
Good, good. What about you? I'm curious to hear what you would say.
Yeah, thanks for putting it back on me. I actually did kind of give a version of this in the first episode of the Herbalist Hour, but basically, I just can't really see myself doing anything else. I would say most of the decisions I make in my life are heart driven. And when I start to feel that anxiety or depression around the things that I'm not doing, when my heart and my soul is telling me to do something, if I kind of just keep pushing it off, I feel like this emptiness. And so I've been pursuing this now for I don't know, since I was probably about 19, 20, I've been getting into nutrition and herbalism, and I just keep working in the field and with the herbalists and these people that I love, and I just do this because it's what my heart and my soul tells me to do. Um, yeah, that was probably just a bunch of word salad right there, but
No, I totally get it. It's like if you feel like it's your calling in a way. And
yeah,
I like what you said about, interacting with the people because I feel like the herbal community is just so many like really good people, like
yeah,
kind, down to earth, connected people. I love this community. I think
it's
we're really lucky to work within it.
It's true. And I'm going to give a shout out to John Gallagher with Learning Herbs. He was one of my very early influences, and I just remember devouring all of the Herb Mentor Radio's podcasts, and I just really felt like I started to get to know the different herbalists and characters in the community, and I just totally fell in love, and just felt like it's my calling, and I feel honored and blessed that I get to hang out and meet people like you, and get to do this. And the Herbalist Hour is also kind of along the same lines. Herb Rally itself lived in my head for maybe a year or two before I actually started, and then I finally did, and I was like, oh, I feel so much better now that I finally did that. And I'm not
Yeah.
kidding. I'm not kidding. I probably talked about the Herbalist Hour almost 2 years ago. Like, I'm going to start interviewing people. I've had the podcast for several years, and I haven't actually started interviewing people yet. So this is just one of those things where my soul is just like nagging me. Come on, Mason, just start interviewing people. It's not going to hurt that much. And I'm really glad I
Yeah.
did. And that's kind of why I do what I do, and why I'm happy to be an herbalist, because I feel like my soul tells me I have to.
I love that. And I
Yeah.
think, I hope anyone who's listening just like pays attention to that inside of themselves, like where are you, what are you inspired by? Like, what are you drawn to do? I always imagine it like this thread almost, and just like pull that string. And it's so cool once you start pulling on it and you start giving it attention, the opportunities that come up, the people you'll meet, it's just go down that path, see what it's going to offer. And it's so rewarding.
That is like the best place to end. So thank you so much for joining us, Hannah, and we'll see y'all on the next episode of the Herbalist Hour.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.